Folks, as we know, the House passed the World War III bill on Saturday, and the Senate voted to approve it last night, sending it to Biden's desk today. It has since been signed, which we'll get to in a moment, but CNN's headline here, the Senate passes $95 billion package sending aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan after months of delay. The Senate on Tuesday passed a long-delayed $95 billion package with wide bipartisan support after both sides of Capitol Hill have struggled for months to send aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The final vote was 79-18, so about the same ratio as in the House, about 75 to 80 percent yes votes. 15 Republicans voted with 3 Democrats against the bill. 48 Democrats and 31 Republicans voted for the bill. The legislation next goes to President Joe Biden to sign it into law, which he has since done, as I understand, who said he would sign the package Wednesday. That's today. Its passage is a significant victory. It's too hard to do the show. You got to keep up. I mean, we need like a whole news team to like change the slides around because the news breaks faster than we could actually like get the show prepped. Its passage is a significant victory for the U.S. president, congressional Democrats, and Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, who long pushed to send aid to Ukraine, even as the right wing of his party increasingly soured on support for Kiev. Right, yeah, the right wing. The
right wing.
Those extremists who don't want to die in a nuclear war. Yeah.
And I'll be real quick because I know you can finish, but this is part of the PSYOP campaign that they did. Yep. The reason why Bernie AOC supported the Ukraine war, and they allow Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene to speak out against it, so then they can label being anti-war far right. Why would you even call them right wing? At this point, you just call them anti-war Republicans, but they don't say that. They use these words for a meaning, but go ahead, Kian.
No, that's a great point. I just want to drive that home because I know you made that on your show, and I thought it was a great point when you said it on your show. The reason AOC has kept her mouth shut largely about this is because they wanted to be able to brand opposition to the Ukraine war as uniquely right-wing, since right-wing is toxic on CNN, right? Now, left-wing can be toxic too, but they really want to brand anti-war sentiment as right-wing. So if you can get the so-called left flank of the Democratic Party to shut their mouths about it, now it's only going to be the far-right Trump MAGA people who say no to the Ukraine war, and therefore they can successfully brand it that way. I think that's absolutely spot on. Just ahead of the final passage, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer began his brief remarks with finally, tonight, may Vladimir Putin regret the day he questioned American resolve, he said.
Oh, my God.
The package ties together 4 bills that the House voted on separately in a rare Saturday session, providing nearly $61 billion in aid for Ukraine, over 26 for Israel, and more than $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific. The first 3 bills are very similar to the package that the Senate passed earlier this year, which House Speaker Mike Johnson had originally refused to bring to the House floor. But once he did, they passed it through. There it is in graphic form, $60.8 billion for Ukraine. Now, what was the number before this passed? It was like $120 billion about that we had sent, $114 billion. So you're sending another 50% of that total package. So if they fought for 2 years with $114 billion and now you're giving them another 60, that means all other things being equal, which all other things are not equal because they're running out of men, obviously. But all other things being equal, they could probably sustain another year on the battlefield with another $60 billion, which takes you past November. That's why they really wanted to get this done, because they wanted to give them enough money to keep the war going no matter who wins in November. And as we know, Donald Trump gave the green light for Republicans to vote for this bill. So much for America First, MAGA. That all just fell apart. Just like Mike Johnson fell apart. It seems like really, when you look at this week, between this bill going through and the TikTok ban and the campus protest infiltration, the deep state is on a roll this week. They are killing it this week at Langley.
You have Raytheon and Boeing that are the undisputed champions of democracy. 10-0, never lost an election in my lifetime. Yeah. The undisputed champions of democracy. So you guys understand that the goal of the ruling class is not to win wars. In fact, you guys are quite bad at it. Do you guys know that?
Right.
You guys know how bad you guys are at fighting wars? I I heard you guys feel all the time telling this. You guys suck at winning wars. The goal of the United States is for never-ending profitable war. That's what Julian Assange said. That's one of the reasons why they want to kill this man.
It's craven, apocalyptic, death cult kind of shit. I mean, it is suicidally insane, but they don't care because, like you said, Raytheon gets paid, Northrop Grumman gets paid. Hey, if this were such an emergency, right? If the future of the free world depended on Ukraine being able to fight for another few months, nobody ever asked this. Given the scale of the emergency and given the fact that these weapons manufacturers have already profited billions and billions and billions of dollars off the war, how come no one ever asks like Raytheon to donate some bombs for free? Like, what, they can't give you a few on the house? Like why can't they just give, like, if the future of the world is at stake and the U.S. government has already bought all these weapons, can't Biden go to like Northrop Grumman, hey, we're gonna need a few of these on the arm, right? like a Subway sandwich punch card. Hey, look, we've bought 10 wars from you. We're gonna need one free war. I think we've earned it, right? But no one ever asked them that. No one ever asked them, hey, this is an emergency situation. You think you can make a few of these for us and not charge us? No, they never get asked that. They never get asked that. But this is an existential battle, right? It's all hands on deck. But they can't sell it to you. They don't even ask for the shit at cost. They don't even ask for it at cost. No, we have to pay retail. We have to pay retail for World War III. The article goes on. Biden applauded the Senate passage of the legislation in a written statement. I won't bother reading his written statement because he actually gave verbal remarks today, which we're going to get to in just a minute. But first, let's go to Mitch McConnell because he's been having a rough time lately. He's been freezing up on the floor. He's been getting sick. He's been getting beat up by the Trump wing. But it's nice to see him finally get to take a little victory lap. So here he is in the run-up to the vote, expressing why it's so important to vote yes, as almost 80 senators ended up doing.
Do our colleagues share the view of the Japanese Prime Minister that, quote, the leadership of the United States is indispensable, end quote? Or would we rather abdicate both the responsibilities and the benefits of global leadership? Will the Senate indulge the fantasy of pulling up a drawbridge? Will we persist in the 21st century with an approach that failed in the 20th? Or will we dispense with the myth of isolationism and embrace reality? Across Europe, the acceleration of defense spending is outpacing our own. And right now, allies and partners from Europe to the Indo-Pacific have contracted more than $100 billion worth of cutting-edge American weapons and capabilities. That's right. Our allies across the world are buying expensive, sophisticated American weapons,
right,
produced in American factories by American workers.
That's fantastic.
Do my colleagues really think that will continue if America decides that global leadership is too heavy a burden?
So now they're going to start trying to sell this as a jobs program. But he mentioned we have to dispense with isolationism. Look how these bastards were able to outlast Trump and then hijack a lot of Trump's rhetoric for their own purposes, none more shamelessly than this fucking guy. Here's Lindsey Graham. Look at his poster that he puts up with him in the Senate.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
He actually has that printed up to take with him to the Senate. America first, strong, isolationism weak. So now he's going to try to make the point that, hey, we're strong when Ukraine is strong, when Israel's strong, when Taiwan is strong. So here's Lindsey Graham.
October the 7th was an attack not to restore the dignity of the Palestinian people, but literally to rape and murder and kill the Jews. Isolationism allows that to go unchecked. America First says, let's help Israel. Let's help Ukraine. Let's turn it into a loan rather than a grant. Let's get Europe to do more and pay more. That's a big difference to me. To the people in this body.
Look at these fucking, look at how fucking shameless these worms are. Like, there's no lower quality person than a fucking politician, than a senator, than they got, so Trump ran on this America First message. Now, Trump obviously sold that movement out behind closed doors. That's why this was able to pass in the first place, right? right? But setting that aside for just a second, you got the guy runs on America First. He runs on a sort of vaguely anti-war platform, but not really. They got him sitting on trial for fucking a porn star and cooking the books on the payments to keep her mouth shut. While he's sitting on trial, this guy brings America First poster into the Senate. Isolationism week. Look at how they just totally took that and repurposed it in a way that, I mean, I don't know who buys this, but they must think some people do. Go ahead.
They don't change their tactics, Keaton.
No.
I'm a student in history. You guys know they said the same thing during the Cold War McCarthyite era. There's a tried and true tactic to smear people who are anti-war as isolationists. Do you guys know what words mean? There are no isolationists. You know what peace activists advocate? I want us to work with China for the betterment of the working class. Are these people calling for the end of trade, Keaton?
Right.
Are they calling for the end of they're not even calling for the end of legal migration?
Right.
They're okay with being part of NATO. They're okay with the EU. That is not what it means to be isolationist. What they're saying you're isolationist if you're against their wars.
Right.
Literally, no one is an isolationist. Not in the modern era. I may be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. So who's the isolationist? No one is. In fact, China, they accuse China of imperialism because China builds in other countries.
Right.
Literally no one is an isolationist. So everyone else outside of the Western crazy empire, they're speaking out against the Gaza genocide. So you have China, you have Russia, you have all these countries, South Africa, Nicaragua. Literally 90% of the population is against the genocide. Are they isolationists? What does that even mean? You guys see how they psychologically torture us? And I've been losing my mind and becoming unhinged as I become a commentator because they literally gaslighted me to death here because they literally use words the exact opposite the way they're meant to be used. What is up is now down.
Yeah.
Ignorant is strength.
Yep.
You know what I mean? War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Like they tell you this shit with a straight face. And people wonder why people are so damn crazy in this country. These are psychological campaigns that are waged at us over and over and over again. Anyway, go ahead, Kim.
No, you're good. Here's Joe Biden taking a victory lap. So this is today, saying we're going to get this money to Ukraine right away. No time to waste. Right away.
The shipments start right away. In the next few hours, literally a few hours, we're going to begin sending in equipment to Ukraine.
We're not even going to wait until the check hits the bank. We're just, I wrote it, I signed it, I put it in. They say 1 to 2 business days. Fuck that. We're sending it right now. Do it live. Do it live.
Munitions for artillery, for rocket systems, and armored vehicles. You know, this package is literally an investment, not only in Ukraine's security, but in Europe's security, in our own security. We're sending Ukraine equipment from our own stockpiles. Then we'll replenish those stockpiles with new products made by American companies here in America.
Whoa, you're not supposed to say that part out loud.
No, this is what they're both saying it. Both the Democrats and the GOP are saying it. That's what Mitch McConnell said. No, they're actually like, I think they understand how no one's going to buy that Russia is an immediate security threat to the U.S.
Sir, absolutely.
And so they have to be like, they have to take this other tack, which is like, hey, by the way, this is a jobs program because we don't make, cars here anymore. We don't make children's toys anymore. We don't make jeans anymore in the United States. So we make weapons. Right. And so this is about jobs because it's true. Chris Hedges wrote about this in one of his more recent books, how one of the only manufacturing bases left in America is the weapons industry. Like those things we actually make in-house. And so now they're just saying that out loud. Hey, look, this is about jobs.
Yeah, they used to never say that, and that's such a great point, Ken. You want to know another reason why they're now using this talking point when they used to shy away from it? Because, as I said, it's not you're saying the quiet part aloud that this is a war that meant to fund the military-industrial complex. Now, that was the position that we said that guys called a Putin puppet. Right. That you guys don't care about winning this war. It's about funding the military-industrial complex. What used to get us called a conspiracy theorist, they're now saying in press conferences. Right. So can you understand why my mind is blown seeing this? But now let's get to another reason why they are framing it this way. Because remember, before before October 7th and before the genocide that Joe Biden sponsored, it was all about a war of morality.
Right.
You guys know how they
Clash of
stopped talking about that
civilizations, right?
way?
Exactly, yeah.
They used to talk about, oh, we got to stand up against Putin's war crimes. We got to stand up against the genocide in Ukraine.
Oh, you're right. Yes. I thought you were talking about like the Middle East wars, but no, you're right. That's actually a very good point. Like, yeah, it was all about ginning up our hatred and our indignation at Putin for committing war crimes against women, against children, right?
Yeah, that's why they changed the narrative, Ken. That's
a good point.
Yeah. That's why they went from saying, "Oh, we gotta fight against Russia because we gotta stand against international law." Ever since they sponsored this Gaza genocide, where they've been rebelling against international law, they have to change the narrative. It's not about fighting against Russia's war crime anymore. It's about, oh, come on, man, we gotta build our industrial base up. Come on, man, think about the long term. We gotta weaken Russia's military. They should never say this stuff. But anyway, I think I made my point. Go ahead, Ken.
Javelins made in Alabama, artillery shells made in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas. In other words, we're helping Ukraine while at the same time investing in our own industrial base, strengthening our own national security, supporting jobs in nearly 40 states all across America.
Mountains,
you know, the United States is not acting alone, to state the obvious. Our allies in Europe and around the world who've constantly been asking me, are we going to step up? We're not going to walk away, are we? How many, and some of you have been to these international meetings with me, they're very concerned. Had we failed to step up, Lord only knows what would happen to the cohesion in NATO. They're also sending significant help to Ukraine. We're all standing together against this brutal dictator.
You're supposed to pause there.
As I've argued for months, this is directly in the United States' national security interest. If Putin triumphs in Ukraine, the next move of Russian forces could very well be a direct attack on a NATO ally.
What?
And you all know full well that invoking Article 5, the North Atlantic Treaty, would be the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. This is one of the lies they won't give up. This is the lie they keep telling, which is that Ukraine is the first domino to fall. The whole reason he invaded Ukraine is because it's not a NATO ally, and he couldn't afford to have it become a NATO ally. Because once it becomes a NATO ally, he has no leverage over it whatsoever, because any military intervention sparks a third world war. So the whole reason the invasion happened is because Ukraine was threatening to join NATO, and he couldn't attack a NATO country. So what is the logical leap to, well, if Ukraine falls, he's going to attack a NATO country next? It's complete nonsense. And Ukraine isn't even going to fall. He doesn't even want Kiev. He never even wanted the country. He wanted Crimea, he wanted the Donbass, and he wanted Ukraine, as it's currently constituted, minus those independent separatist regions who wanted to break off, to be a neutral state. That's all he wanted. He never wanted Kiev. He doesn't want the country. But they're talking about, no, not only does he want Ukraine, he wants all of Europe. I mean, it's just absolute nonsense on its face. And that they haven't given up on.
Yeah, that's why, once again, they say stuff that don't make sense and contradict themselves all the time. And they psychologically torture Americans because on one hand, Russia and Ukraine was exposed as weak, ineffective. Putin made a miscalculation in Ukraine. Remember, Lloyd Austin said, Ukraine is already a success in his eyes because he greatly diminished Russia's military capacity.
Yep.
I covered this. There was a while ago, maybe a few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's true, why would Russia take over and launch a war against NATO? Right. If their military been dismantled, if Russia is so weak like you guys claim, where they're losing in Ukraine, how in what universe would they be able to march into Europe? In what universe would that be possible?
Yeah.
And you gotta remember, Putin is not this crazy madman. I'll pass it right to you, Ken. He has relationships he's been with China and Iran. He's working on building something. He's dealing with an imminent threat in NATO building up on his border in Ukraine. He has no reason to deal with these irrelevant losers in Europe. Like, what the fuck is over? Russia is a giant landmass. They don't need any more land. They got all the oil. They don't need any more oil. The only thing they need is to grow their international influence. And you know what will ruin that? If they invade Europe.
Right.
That's why Putin over and over and over and over again in every interview, like, bro, I am not going to invade Europe. Why you guys keep saying it? But sorry, can you go ahead? You can continue your point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's all absolutely true, and I also would just add to that. I don't even think necessarily broadening their international influence was priority number one as it pertains to Ukraine. I think it was about securing their eastern border. I'm sorry, their western border. Sorry, and about making sure that they had a path to the sea, which was vital for their economic interest, and that this very resource-rich nation, Ukraine, did not fall under a hostile military treaty. Because if they did that, that could potentially cripple Russia, or at the very least damage them in a very real sense. And so, like, in terms of their sphere of influence, the irony is I don't think that was motivation number one, but it has grown, no doubt, since the war started. I mean, we didn't I didn't hear anything about a BRICS until this war started. Now we see this other sort of power system start to take shape, including states that when you add them up, they comprise more people than the G7 states. And now if you add their GDP together, their GDP is higher than the G7 states.
Please clap.